20 tickets per tour on our regular tours, and they sell out every time. Well, hey everybody, how's it going? We're still waiting on Kelly. We get started here in a minute.
Yeah.
How many of you guys have history with Sutro? Anybody here ever been out there before or know anything? Yeah. Yeah, sort of.
Not the tunnel, but the exhibit at a school about 5 years ago.
The exhibit at the Sutro Elementary?
Sutro Elementary.
Fantastic. How about further back, 60s, 70s, 80s, anything like that? Yeah? Yeah? Partying out there. That's in the old town, yeah. In the old house. Which one? Yeah. So that would be the Victorian. What years were you out there? What was it, Loretta at the time living in the house?
I don't know, party with friends.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know much
Late
here, but I
60s,
party.
early 70s.
Yeah. I've been to those parties
Don't
too.
remember.
Yeah.
I've seen the statue of Sutro on the Capitol ground.
That's right. That is Adolph Sutro. Who here knows what's wrong with the statue?
It shows him actually digging. and
No,
getting it in.
that was true. That he did pose for a photo. He had dress shoes on, nice slacks, reading that big ass. But what else? What else would be wrong with that photo? Somewhere on his face. They gave him a full beard.
Oh.
Adolph Sutro never had a full beard. He always had that shade right there. Yeah,
It's an old statue.
it's an old statue. You know who made it?
Um,
Who made it? Greg Melton. That's right. And you know Greg, you partied out there? Yeah, yeah. He's shaking his head, yeah. Greg is awesome. He's a great guy, fantastic artist, and one of our best reporters. We have one of his few small statues that he made at our museum at the site in the machine shop. That building right there that you see, we turned into our impromptu museum. We're working on making it more formal. The other one is at the Keck Museum. Garrett has it, Farmore. And the third one is at the Fourth Ward School upstairs. So there's only 3 of the small ones that I know of, plus the one giant big one downtown.
You said Tech Museum?
Keck, K-E-C.
That one.
Yeah, you're at Mackey School of Mines.
Oh, I'm still new around here.
Oh, if you want a fantastic museum to attend is the Keck Museum of the Mackey School of Mines. It's amazing, especially if you like rocks. It's lots of rocks.
Okay.
Now, there's another statue across from Adolph Sutro downtown, right? Guy on a horse. You guys know what that is?
Kit Carson.
Kit Carson. Did you know who made it? Buckeye Blake.
The same guy.
No, not Greg. Greg didn't make that one. Buckeye Blake made that one. If you guys were around there at the same time, Buckeye also lived in Sutro. Oh, there's a lot of connections between Sutro and all over Nevada and across the United States, really, mostly Western United States.
Sutro was in the orchestra.
The orchestra, and I'm not spoiling anything. We'll go into San Francisco a little bit, but he built the Sutro Baths, the Cliff House, the whole western neighborhoods. When he first got there, it was sand in the western neighborhoods, dunes. He developed the whole area. He also built a train system out there that he would only charge a nickel versus, he called him the octopus. It was the big train company at the time. They were charging people twice as much.
Southern Pacific.
No, that's not. The other one. Anyhow, he never liked big business taking advantage of people. He liked taking the money. How's it going, Kelly?
All right, I'm gonna let you go. We're recording, we're broadcasting. So
Good to go? Everybody can hear me just fine? Fantastic. Hi, my name is Chris Pattison. I am with the Friends of Sutro Tunnel. The Friends of Sutro Tunnel charity is a nonprofit pending 501c3 organization. We've submitted all the paperwork to the IRS. We're just waiting for approval. They hired me last September to take over this project and to manage it, to help develop it. I'm not an executive director. I am a project manager and business owner. So we've been able to make some leaps and bounds in marketing and historical research. Eventually, they might hire somebody that's better at this job than me. Hopefully they do. So first slide here, the Sutro Tunnel, past, present, and future. When I first got to the site, people told me Adolph Sutro had left in 1879. Nothing happened after that. And that didn't sit well with me. Like, no, let's do a little bit more research. And come up with, is this 14?
It's a power run.
Negatory, good buddy.
We might have run the battery down. We haven't turned it on. Oh, I see. Maybe if I put your presentation up instead.
Yeah.
It's scientific.
Very good. Thank you. Woo, Kelly. Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah.
So, Adolph Sutro, born in Prussia, at that time it was Prussia, now it's Germany. His father owned linen factories over there and then passed away. When his father passed away, Adolph Sutro quit school to take over the factories. He didn't last long though because the Prussian wars came in. His family left very young to New York City. He went to San Francisco through the Isthmus of Panama and started business over there. The business he was running in San Francisco at first was linen, towels, and then he got into tobacco. In 1859, a group of miners came out to Virginia City in this area. They were finding silver. These are placer gold miners even before then, but they were getting this clay. So in 59, they took it to San Francisco to get assayed. They're super quiet and secretive about it. Nobody knew. But then after they had it assayed, all of a sudden everybody knew, all over the country, that silver was found in the Comstock. April 8th, 1860, Adolph Sutro first visited this area. He wrote a journal that is available on our website. You can read the whole story of everywhere he went through, all the way from Lake Tahoe, which was at that time, I just lost it. What's that? Bigler, Lake Bigler. He writes Lake Bigler in there. That was my first notice that he was calling it Bigler. I'm like, he was wrong. They changed it to Tahoe. He writes his whole story. So if you're interested in that story, take a look. It's on our website. When he first came out here, he wasn't a miner. He was an engineer and he was a marketing man. He was a businessman. He started off with stamp mills. Small ones, just like the one you see here. His stamp mills were running at wood at first, and then later he changed it. This is an operating stamp mill in Virginia City. It's only a 2-stamp mill. This is the gold stamp mill next to the fairgrounds. And these were the size of the stamp mills that he started out with. See here in a second in the bank how it's operating. But then he found a problem in Virginia City. He couldn't make as much money in the stamp mills as he wanted. But in Virginia City, as they dug deeper into the mines, they were running into water. The water was flooding the mines, and the miners were getting scalded by this water. It was on average over 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Kill these poor guys. Yeah. So Adolph Sutro thinks to himself, what can I do? How can I benefit the miners and help myself? He decides to do a drainage adit. The water, oh yeah, the water was coming out so hot, boiling steam on the miners, yeah. So this drainage adit that he had built he began it in 1869. He started thinking about it in 1864. So he could drain the water of the mines of Virginia City, ventilate the mines, transport the ore, and transport them in. His big push, though, was in early 1869, when the Yellow Jacket mine fire disaster happened. Anywhere between 35 to 42 plus men died in the Yellow Jacket fire. On September 8th, 1869, he held a lecture at Piper's Opera House. At Piper's Opera House in front of all the miners of the area. Those miners are the ones that gave him his first seed money of $50,000 to start the tunnel. He began that tunnel in October 19th, 1869. He continued for another 10 years. In 1878, he finally connected to the Savage mine. And then he finally completed in 1879. The tunnel runs 3.88 miles from Dayton, underneath the Comstock, intersects with the Savage mine, and then goes another 1.5 miles in both directions to connect all the mines of Virginia City, to drain the water of the tunnels, or the mines. It was flowing at 3,500,000 gallons of water per day in its heyday. Now it's about 30 gallons per day, per minute. It's very slow in comparison. In this map here, you can see where it starts. This is our site, the Sutro Tunnel site, 3.88 miles back to the Savage Mine, and then connecting to all those mines of Virginia City. There's even more mines throughout, and these are later ones. That ore was brought up, but this tunnel operated until 1943. So 1879, Adolph Sutro completed the tunnel, and he just leaves. That's what didn't sit well with me. Why would you just leave your great work? He went back to San Francisco, and then, as we were discussing before, built a huge empire. But all the work that he did here, I mean, who would sell? There's a couple of stories that I've heard that I like. One of is when Ulysses S. Grant came here, Adolph Sutro had completed his great work. He's in Virginia City. He's hanging out with the wrong crowd. He is in a saloon, and his wife, Leia's like, no, I need to find Adolph, the ex-president's coming. She goes up to Virginia City, finds him with another lady. Doesn't chase after her with a champagne bottle, and the guys pulled her off. Leia goes back home. But she still had the president to host. That night, she hosted Ulysses S. Grant and his family and friends at the Sutro Mansion, which unfortunately is burned down now.
Now, is that in San Francisco?
Nope, right here,
Right, okay.
right here at the Sutro Tunnel site. There was a mansion there. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. She hosted the then ex-president and his group, while Adolph Sutro stayed in Virginia City. The next morning, he speaks on the front porch to all the people of Dayton that came to visit him and Sutro and the surrounding areas to hear his speech. Then he travels through the tunnel, up the Savage, into Virginia City. While he's doing this, Leia Sutro packs her bags and the kids and leaves, goes back to San Francisco and never comes back to Nevada again. They never really divorced. They stayed together, but they never met back up. He bought her a couple homes in San Francisco that she could make money off of, and she stayed taken care of. But that, I think, was a catalyst for Adolph Sutro. He lost a lot of friends in this area. He met with William Sharon, William Ralston early on, and he was buddies with these guys in the Bank of California, but they turned against him when they were wanting to build a railroad. So it's all about money, and he was tired of it. He wanted to go back to San Francisco, back to the coast, and build a new empire over there. But he still has the Sutro Tunnel, his namesake drainage adit, with everything he built there, a town site, a stamp mill. What's he to do? He puts his brother Theodore Sutro in charge. This is his book sitting on the table. You're welcome to look at it. This is original publication of Theodore Sutro. He came out to this area, took over the Sutro Tunnel Company, and rebuilt it back up. He made it even more profitable than Adolph Sutro did himself. In this book, you'll see that is their total, $773,000 from March of 1880 to 1887. That's an incredible amount of money for just 7 years. That's more money than Adolph Sutro had made. So Theodore Sutro, he takes over, rebuilds it, writes his reports, gets new investors, reinvigorates it. He still doesn't like Nevada though. The month after Adolph Sutro passes away, Theodore Sutro sold it to Franklin Leonard Sr. Franklin Leonard Sr. and the Leonard family built it up from there. Theodore leaves the area. Even today, you may know the Leonard name, Pete Leonard.
Yeah.
He's still around.
Is he?
Pete Leonard, yeah, his mom is back east and he's taking care of mom right now, but Pete's still around. Great guy, he helps me out on occasion when I need historical stuff. But the Leonard family, they buy this and they invest heavily into it. And they buy up a lot of the mines in the area. At one point, they were the majority owners of Virginia City and the Comstock. 1904 or 1908, another company was commissioned, or the Leonards commissioned another company to research the area and develop their findings and if they should continue to proceed with mining. In 1904, they invested another $250,000 into the Sutro Tunnel. So the tunnel didn't end in 1880. Really, a lot of people think, well, the big boom days, 1880, this is over. Well, yeah, that was the last big boom, but they were still mining. They were mining all over Virginia City up until World War II. For 1904, another $250,000 invested deep into the tunnel, still draining water, still transporting ore, still transporting people. And the Leonard family continued to grow it. 1935, Jack Greenhall, this gentleman here, another local, he worked for NDOT at the time. He left his job before retiring at NDOT to go work for the Sutro Tunnel Company, now the Comstock Tunnel and Drainage Company. Rebuilt the stamp mill that was at the site and was processing custom ore that they were transporting through the Sutro Tunnel in the 1930s. We never knew that until very recently. Into this custom, the stamp mill at the Sutro Tunnel site. There was a lot of other items of note in the 1920s. There was guys had a still. They were trying to hide liquor inside the Sutro Tunnel. 16 men were arrested and prosecuted in that. Liquor was big business in the 20s. So there's a lot of ebbs and flows. Nevada's boom or bust. We always have been, always will be. Things build up out here and then they crush, and then they build up and they crush. All of you locals that have been out here know we're a boom and bust state. We just are. So in the 20s and another bust time, got to figure out a way to make money. But then it boomed again. They continued to work it. This is the West family. That's Albert West, the gentleman on your top right. That's Francis West in the front. Francis West is still around today.
Wow.
He contacts me on occasion. If Francis is watching, hey, he's a wonderful gentleman and he's taught me a lot about the site in the 1940s. As we grow, we're learning more about each generation, each decade at Sutro. Incredibly important for our local history and us as individuals. This is what's grown us out here. And we've developed a lot of stuff at the site because of it. We have electricity there before anyone else. We have giant ore carts out there. A lot of equipment was developed at Sutro. So Albert West is hired to come out here. Him and his family lived in the Sutro mansion that was at the Sutro Tunnel site. It was called the superintendent's office. The superintendent builds himself a 3-story building, 1,000 square feet per story with running water. Well, you know, perks of being the boss, right? Unfortunately, that house burned in 1942. There's 3 stories that I've heard. When I first started out here, I was told that it was arson, that Albert had fired somebody and they burnt the house down. The next story that I heard was from Francis himself. He goes, no, Dad was loved by everybody. What Dad had done though, even though he was an electrician, he wasn't a very good one. He hooked up the old Melton wheel from 1898 because Mama wanted electricity and ran knob and tube wiring. That's what burnt the house down. Well, then his sister, I published that, and his sister gets a hold of me, goes, no, that's not what happened. There was a chimney fire, because I remember Dad running out with a bucket of water to get up on the roof. So I don't know why it burned down, but it did, unfortunately. When you visit the site, you can still stand at the foundation. We haven't dug it up yet. We want to get an archaeological group together. We want to dig up this area and see what we can find. There's all sorts of stories about guns being buried in the basement, gold coins, and all sorts of treasure hunter stories. Who knows? We want to know. I don't like working off of speculation. I like finding fact. So if anybody's out there listening that does archaeology, get a hold of me. We want to do a dig at the Sutro Tunnel Mansion. Then in December 7th, 1942, Executive Order L-208 shuts down all non-essential mining in the United States to focus on the war effort. They needed young men to go to war and women. They needed what mining there is to focus on the war effort. Silver and gold wasn't helping the war effort at that time, so they shut it down. That's what shut down the mining of the Comstock. It wasn't until World War II that it really shut down. And in the 50s in Virginia City, we have a video from 1953, Virginia City, on our YouTube. You should watch it. It shows the drastic change at that time. Oh, am I supposed to say all of that and play that video at the same time? So it all died. But then started revitalizing again. 1960s, this gentleman named Robin Larson, he's driving through the area and he sees this site up on the side of the hill. He drives over there and falls in love with it. Turns out that's the Sutro Tunnel site. He signs a lease agreement with the Sutro Tunnel Company, the Leonard family, which was still around. They just weren't doing anything out there. He takes it over. He builds a saloon in the old warehouse at the Sutro Tunnel site. This gentleman here on my left, your far right, that was the first saloon owner before Pierce came out there. That's Stoney Tennant. Stoney and Laura Tennant are still around today. That gentleman that they're with is Rocky Adamson. Rocky Adamson was a constable in Dayton. I like seeing smiles and head nods. You're like, you guys knew these people. Rocky recorded a record. I want to say CD, but he recorded a record in the Sutro Saloon. That music is also available on our YouTube and our website. He sings about Sutro, the area. It's all bluegrassy, twangy. It's fantastic music. That building that you see in your top left corner, that's the old assay office. That building also burnt down, but we replaced it. That's where the new caretaker, Asa Gilmore, lives at. Those people all you see on the front, and your locals that know Pierce Powell, that's old skinny Pierce standing up with the black cowboy hat. That person next to him is Robin Larson. Then Robin Larson, he leaves. He has marital problems too, like happens. He leaves the area, but Pierce stays. And that other skinny gentleman there, that's Greg Melton. Greg Melton is the artist that we were talking about before we started. He built the statue of Adolph Sutro that's in downtown Carson City, along with the 3 other smaller statues. The one at our museum, one at the Keck Museum, and one at the 4th Ward School. That statue you see at his feet, that's Lady Liberty. That is in front of the Virginia City Courthouse today. We're inside. If you look behind him, that picture is the Sutro Tunnel site. And there's Pierce Powell standing in front of that same statue. There's been a lot of changes to the portal facade over the years. It was very well taken care of up through the 1940s. Those gentlemen standing up in front of it, one of them's Albert West. He repainted the facade. It was block lettering before him, it faded, he repainted it. He neglected to paint the 1888 at the top. You'll see now, it says back to the original, and that had all fallen apart, you'll see here. 1950s, okay, we're still doing well, it's being taken care of, but it's all boarded up, not using it now. 1960s, you can go in there, take a look around. Some people talk about when they went inside, but it was too scary, it started collapsing. There's no more maintenance going on inside the tunnel. 1970s, drastic change. Nothing's going on to protect the portal in the tunnel itself anymore. Even the guys in the 60s were cleaning it and taking care of it. And then things start slowly changing. But then May 15th, 1979, this is a Sacramento Bee. This is Houston Oil and Minerals. Houston Oil and Minerals came back out to this area through the whole Comstock. They bought up a ton of mines. They were reinvesting in this area. The silver in 1979 was huge. That was big business again. They rebuilt the tunnel. They pulled out all the historical stuff from inside the Sutro Tunnel and they replaced it with timbers that weren't proper and nails. So that unfortunately collapsed. That's what we're working with now. We don't have historical timbers in the tunnel. We have the stuff that they did in 1979 and 1980. They made it back. So this part is all speculation. We don't know for sure. We're working on learning more and sending in more explorations. But they made it back 2,500 feet, hit a clay wall. In front of that clay wall, instead of proceeding past that clay wall, because there's a lot of clay in our soil here. Once you get past the alluvial, that's loose, and you get into the breccia, the trachea, you start getting into red clay past that granite. And then you get into granite again and silver. But that clay is like a sponge. That's what they were always doing in the Sutro Tunnel, cutting that clay out to maintain it for the ore carts. They can keep traveling in and out. Well, they hit that clay wall at 2,500 feet. They put up 2 vertical air pipes so that we can maintain ventilation that are still there today. We've installed solar panels on those air pipes, and they built a dam at 1,100 feet. Some people, you'll hear tell the story that they would go through the tunnel after this and into the dam and put a boat in it and boat around in the underground lake that's in the Sutro Tunnel. Is it there? I don't know. I mean, a lot of people have collaborated on that story. We'll see. We're working on finding out. In the 1990s, Houston Oil and Minerals, they leave in the 80s. They didn't find any silver. They just tucked tail and ran. A lot of people lost a lot of money because of them doing that. Early 2000s. This just gives you an idea of what the whole site was starting to look like. By this time, in the 90s and early 2000s, a lot of buildings had burnt down. The people that were living out there had moved. there wasn't very many people living at the site, and those that were just weren't taking care of it anymore. They're getting older now. They just don't have the ability, the money. They just live there. And a lot of them, they're all gone now. But then Joe Curtis comes out. This picture was taken last year. Joe Curtis came out and helped us redo the portal to be as historically accurate as possible. We use accurate bricks, we use accurate paint. He made an exact copy of what it was when Theodore Sutro built this portal in 1888. Now, here's a quick video of what we did to learn that we could go inside the tunnel. This is LiDAR and 3D rendering. You'll also hear a voice actor doing Adolph Sutro's voice, the lecture on mines and mining that he gave at Piper's Opera House. So take a look at this.
Fellow citizens, ladies and gentlemen, before entering upon the subject of my lecture on mines and mining, I hope you will pardon me if I shall take up a portion of your time for the purpose of saying a few words in regard to the history of the Sutro Tunnel. This great work and my connections therewith have been so long and so outrageously misrepresented by parties whose sole aim and object appears to be to get control of it for themselves, that I deem it my duty to set myself right before my fellow citizens. I first conceived the idea of running a deep tunnel to the Comstock Lode shortly after its discovery, at my first visit to this section in the spring of 1860. The undertaking, however, was of so gigantic a nature and received so little encouragement that I did not take any active steps in the matter until the fall of 1864. Then I concluded to apply to the Nevada legislature, which was to meet in the January following for a franchise to construct such a tunnel.
You guys like that?
Well,
That's
cool.
pretty neat.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's way cool. That was a specialty drone. It was Helios 2 with LiDAR technology and able to do 3D rendering. When it was flying in there, we were able to map out the exact dimensions of everything. We put this in like an AutoCAD program and we submitted that to our engineers. We're working on rebuilding the tunnel itself. That collapse in the front, we've cleared it. This is an actual video of that drone flying. This is the collapse in the front that we've cleared out now. But you can see on the timbers that they're nailed in, they're pressed in. Those aren't square set timbering. This is not accurate underground mining and timbering. This was what was done by Houston Oil and Minerals, and this is why it failed. We're going to reuse a lot of that timbering for the facade. What we're going to do is build a dome out of wood. On top of that dome, we're going to put concrete. And when that concrete cures, we're going to use a structural expanding foam to press out this. This is an alluvial fill, this loose rock. It's like digging a hole in sand. You dig a hole in the sand, somebody sits next to your hole, the whole thing collapses. Like, hey man, don't stand next to my hole. Well, that's the problem. We don't want anybody stepping in this hole and it collapsing in on them. You can see all the timbers collapse. Beyond those timbers, and you saw it in the other video, was those dark spots, that's water. There's hundreds of miniature dams all the way back because the water in there is, looked like somebody was questioning that. It's an aquifer. The whole underneath of Mount Davidson is a geothermal aquifer. The water is going to continue to run forever. But as we clear it out, that water level is increasing. It goes out to our pond that we have on the site. We actually have 2 ponds, a standpipe, and then reservoirs that are prepared below for the amount of water that's going to come through. This is the area cleared. All of that collapse you saw in the beginning of this video, cleared it out. That's 50 feet back. This is the first spot for the dome. Then we're going to go 10 to 50 feet per section as far as we can as funding allows. This project right here, that was a $40,000 project just to clear out the mess. And yeah, that does kind of look like a lab. But you can see this is the water still running today. We're not sure yet exactly how we're going to proceed. One of the thoughts is to build a floor with a trough, just like Adolph Sutro had out of redwood. Redwood's kind of expensive, may use composites, concrete, different material. We also want to put tracks in there. You can ride an ore cart in and out. I don't know if we'll be able to make it the full distance, but we're gonna make it as far as we can.
I'm sorry, is this water hot?
No, it's not, because of all the collapses in there and the dam, it's had time to cool off. It stays tepid.
Oh.
It's comfortable. I would take a bath in it in the winter. Yeah, it's that warm, but it's not as hot as it was. Originally, when it first came out of the tunnel, it was at 104.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Out in 1879. So now we're getting up to more current days. We're working on restoring the entire site. That picture in the top left, that's some of our volunteers cleaning out the top of the warehouse. You can see all, that's not dirt. Those are leftovers from animals. Those are droppings. In the bottom left, you see Greg Melton on the right and Bob Thomason on the left with the miniature of Adolph Sutro that Greg had made and donated to us. Bob's fantastic too, by the way. That guy's, he's an amazing volunteer. The clampers, I don't know what you guys have heard about them. I've only seen good. They're awesome. The Juliet chapter in Virginia City and the snowshoe chapter in Genoa, they're out there once a month, the third Saturday of every month, volunteering their time at the site to help restore it. These other folks you see down below, Pam Abercrombie with the Lexia Sober. Lexia Sober works for the Comstock Foundation. They're also volunteers. Pam's actually one of our lead volunteers, been there since 2016. Here's another picture of some of the clampers in the upper right. You notice they each have a beer in their hand. This is how you pay clampers. Remember that? This is an original ore cart tracks that we've relayed at the site, and we put ore carts on top of it, our ore carts. Those ore cart wheels say Carson City Foundry. Yeah, 1900. We're also on a lot of channels on YouTube. You'll be able to just see a ton about us. Just type in Sutro Tunnel on your computer. You'll see all sorts. And events. We're doing tours on a regular basis. I haven't scheduled any more tours at this time for regular ticket sales, but I do private tours. If you want to go on a private tour, contact me. We'll schedule it. We'll figure out how to make it work. We also do private events, weddings. We're working on doing an Easter thing for the kids next year. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll see that's Dan Webster. He's talking to the kids of the Sutro Elementary. In the center, that large photo, that's Carson City Rotary Club. They donated us a tractor. Yeah, that was nice. This is our Adolph Sutro, another one of our Adolph Sutro actors. We have two. This gentleman here, he's the grand humbug of all the clampers. At the moment, they cycle them through pretty quick though, from what I understand. But as you can see, if you want to do a private event or something, just contact me. This gentleman here, you might recognize him with the big beard. Oh, his name just left me, but that's the guy from Pawn Stars. Their expert that they always call in. Yeah.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And that is a presentation. Yeah, let's go for questions. And Kelly, well, can you cue up that video that I put on there too? Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I've heard a story that in like 1927, there was a really bad snowstorm up in Virginia City, and nobody was going in and going out, but somebody got the idea to take food, lots of potatoes, up through the Sutro Tunnel. And is that true?
It's not just 1927. That happened a lot back then.
Really?
The train was still running, but sometimes it can't run still. They got to shovel the train out. What are you going to do? They didn't just bring food. There's one story I heard where they brought kids to go to school. Yeah, they were using that tunnel for all sorts of stuff up until 1943. And then they just closed the gates because of World War II. Yeah, so a lot of those stories that you hear, they're true. Definitely, they were using it. Okay, we'll answer more questions in a sec. I want to show you guys this video. This Saturday, talking about events, we're having a mining competition at the site. These are the Mackey mothers. So Matt Mackey is the great grandson of John Mackey, right? You know, Mackey, Fair, Flood, and O'Brien. Well, that Mackey's grandson, great grandson, just bought a whole bunch of tickets and became a donor, so this is pretty neat. Just a few minutes ago, or hours, so pretty excited. These kids, this is just a small part of the group, they're the Mackey Muckers. They're a competitive mining team out of UNR that are also mining students. So we're letting them hold an event this Saturday at the site, an exhibition and a chili cook-off. So if you guys want, please come. But Kelly, if you don't mind, sir.
Hi, I'm Kelly Belay. I'm the president of the UNR Mackey Muckers. The Mackey Muckers is the traditional mining team who competes at the Intercollegiate Mining Games every year. The mining games were started in 1972 after the Sunshine Fire.
So they fill that up as fast as they can, then run it back and run it back towards here and dump it again. There's another team on the other side. This is called single jack. That girl, I met her, she weighs only 80 pounds. She's quick. Tracks in, they're laying work hard tracks. They put them together as fast as they can, then take them apart. We've got this whole setup in the site. Watch this. That's speed goal painting.
Mackey Games is October 1st at the Sutro Tunnel. It is a fundraiser to help send at least 2 teams to Australia for the Mackey Muckers and to help restore the Sutro Tunnel. Mackey Games was-
We cut the prices in half if kids are free, just so you know that's.
Activities and Mackey Muckers demonstrating a few events from competition. Hope to see you there.
Thanks, Kelly.
What's the price?
Well, students, veterans, it's $50, or kids 12 and under are free. Or if you just show up and say hi, Chris, at the gate. Yeah, donations are accepted. But so that just kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that we're working on doing. Not only are we restoring the entire site as historically accurate as possible, we're using rough cut lumber, we're using square nails, we're using everything local that we can. It's not new stuff. We're using original technology with original type of material that they would use. Well, we've got to fund this. So we're holding events like this, and we're also doing it as a give back to the community. That event sends those kids to Australia to compete for the United States in the international mining competitions. So, yeah, pretty neat.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
I remember seeing the streets all laid out and some trees still surviving. Are you doing anything with the old town site?
The site that's been donated to us is the 28 acres. It's fenced, that section, you'll see it. Unfortunately, what's beyond the fence is out of our control. That whole area is being developed right now. We're working closely with those developers to make sure that we can maintain access. That is a very important thing for us, maintaining access. There's developments going up on 2 sites, and I think it's long-term on the 3rd site. The only place that won't be developed will be our site and the land behind us. That's one of the reasons they donated it. These people that donated to us, they helped formulate the nonprofit organization, also the Friends of Sutro Tunnel charity, so that it can be protected for future generations. If they didn't do that, who knows? They would have developed it.
Yeah, you bet.
Anyone else?
How do you get there?
Oh, great question.
Not a horse.
Yeah, you can if you got a horse, bring it, or a mule. Mule's even better. That's more accurate. If you pass, we were not open on regular tours yet. You've got to contact me to get a tour out there. But to get to the site, you drive through Dayton to now their second light. You have 2 now. You turn left at the second light, and then left on Dayton Village Park. Oh, wait, left at the school, Sutro Elementary, right on Dayton Village Parkway. You'll see the development being built when you take that dirt road. Or just send me an email and I'll send you a map.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was closer into town.
No, well, town's growing.
Well, yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
it's meeting.
Oh, thought your hand was up, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
There's an interesting looking
Oh.
poster down there.
I forgot to show you. Feel free to take a look at this stuff. This is 2 stock certificates signed by Theodore Sutro himself. Some supporting information of the continuation of the tunnel. This is when he transitioned it from the Sutro Tunnel to the Comstock Tunnel Drainage Company before he sold it to Franklin Leonard Sr. There's a signed telegram from Leah Sutro to Theodore to Adolph Sutro. That's his name, Adolph. Adolph Sutro saying she's heading back to San Francisco to get a tooth pulled. This here was the site in 2019. We've made a ton of progress since then. The ore carts are finished. This secondary pond is cleared out. Feel free to come up when you're afterwards. We've cleared this. We've cleared the collapse in the tunnel. We've rebuilt a lot of the structures out here. We've cleaned the entire site. So when you get to the site, it's going to look quite a bit different from this. And water is now filling up this part here. And you can see the water, once it reaches a certain level, pours out of our standpipe and then water's down below. Good question. Yeah.
What's the quality of the water?
That's a great question. There's a lot of bacteria in the water, but the bacteria is because of the timbers rotting. When we clear that out, no more bacteria. That water is cleaner than the Carson River. The mercury in the area was from the stand mills when they were using mercury before they invented the process of using cyanide. The Carson River had mills all up and down it. Check out Dan Webster's book, Mills Along the Carson River. So don't drink the water out of the river, don't eat the fish. For the water out of the tunnel, once that bacteria is out of there, there's a lot of heavy dissolved solids. It is geothermal. There's also a lot of silver. That water is lots of silver in it. Yeah.
Like chunks or?
No, no chunks yet. Particles. I'm gonna keep my eyes peeled for a chunk. Yes, ma'am.
Who owns that area, that 28 acres?
Oh, yeah, that was donated to us, the Friends of Sutro Tunnel charity. That is
Okay.
ours.
Oh,
Our nonprofit organization owns that 28-acre
and
site.
who donated? The Leonard family?
Yeah, Leonard's and another guy, he doesn't like being named, but if you type it in on Google, you'll see it.
Jim Schreiber?
No,
Yeah.
Jim has been involved. Jim's fantastic, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Is he?
yeah, Jim Shriver's still doing stuff, yeah.
Here's his bookkeeper.
Oh, fantastic, great. Yes, sir.
I heard two things. While the tunnel was being built, Sutro quietly sold stock over that 10-year period. So by the time that was finished, he had sold all his stock. And when he got to San Francisco, the land that he acquired, he owned 10% of San Francisco.
He did own 10% of San Francisco, but he continued to make dividends off of the stocks that he owned from the Sutro Tunnel Company. That's why he put his younger brother Theodore in charge. So that started, that thought started with Adolph Sutro's biography that was written by Mary Frances Stewart and her husband. Fantastic book, amazing history in there, a lot of facts. But we're now learning through the historical documents, like this one right here, the tunnel was operating until 1942. Back then, but so earlier on, Adolph Sutro, when it said he was quietly selling his stocks, that wasn't until 1879. He was a little quiet about it, but not very quiet, because you find out the main investor, the main stockholder is selling stocks, and it'll plummet up. So he did sell off a lot of them, but not all of them. And he stayed on as a board member at the Sutro Tunnel. That's why his little brother got to be in charge. So yes, that's true, sort of. Yes, sir.
When you were talking, I think you alluded to the fact that due to the subdivisions going in, that you may have access problems getting into this?
At one point, there was that conversation, Pat, but we're working with the county and with the developers, and we have a positive relationship with both. We're going to be able to maintain access, but we need to maintain that positive relationship. Yeah, to keep that. Anybody else?
Taking cookies.
Lots of cookies, yeah. They like beer too.
And with beer. Yeah.
Oh, there's a Sutro Tunnel beer too.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, they do limited productions, but it's at the Shoe Tree Brewery. It's a fantastic stout. So let those guys know, it should come back out next summer, but tell them, hey, I want it now.
How much longer this year are you going to be giving private tours?
I have stopped the regular guided tours, advertises them on the website for the remainder of this year. I need a break, and so do my volunteers, but we're gonna start back up again early next spring. But if you contact me, I will schedule a private tour for you and a group if you want one. Donors, they can come out pretty much whenever they want.
How long does a tour last, and do you like walk around the area and? see
Yeah,
how
yeah,
it was?
the tour, let's see if we get back here. This isn't the full section of the property, but this gives you a good idea of what it's like. You'll come up the left-hand side. It takes about 2 hours if you want. We can go longer or we can go shorter. I cater the tour to the group. You walk the entire site. You learn about the buildings that are on this site. You learn about the mules. You learn about the history. There's machinery on this site that you won't see anywhere else in the Comstock. There's a water bucket that was being used to empty the water out of the mines before they even invented the pumps that's on the site. I've never seen one of those anywhere else. It's huge. But yeah, so you tour the site, then you go up the hill. Up over here beyond this is where the Sutro Tunnel Mansion is. You get to go to the pond. We have koi in there as long as your arm. Oh yeah, we've cleared out all the debris by the pond, all the cattails. That was a $40,000 project on its own, just cleaning up the pond. And we've been told there's a Volkswagen bug in there left by the 60s people. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Is that your bug, Jim?
Might have us.
Alrighty, folks.
Thank you.
Is that it? Thank you. Thank you all very much.